Siri, what is the score of the World Series?
The Giants are behind the Royals by a score of 2-0 in the bottom of the second inning in Game 6 of the World Series.
I thought none of you would be happy till you knew what the score was, but now I'm not happy, so we'll do the very best that we can. Good evening. I'm John Shaw, and I have the pleasure of being the Chief Development Officer for the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. And on behalf of Mrs. Reagan and the Board of Trustees, I want to welcome you here this evening for this incredible opening of the exhibit, Amazing Automobiles, the Ultimate Car Exhibit. We're very thrilled to have you here, and we thank you so much for being members. And for many of you being here 3 or 4 times in the last 2 or 3 days, it's a great commitment, and we do truly appreciate it. Before I tell you about the exhibit and introduce our keynote speaker, I want to recognize Dr. Andrew Wolf. He's our curator and the curatorial team for putting together another amazing exhibit. You're going to see it here in a few moments, and it really lays out and looks absolutely beautiful. So please join me in thanking them for all they do to make our exhibit special. This exhibit is going to unfold in 3 separate times. The first, of course, 3 separate phases, I should say. It'll be Hollywood, the heads of state, and then what we call the wow cars. So you'll have to come back on a couple of additional occasions as we bring in more automobiles, first into the Air Force One Pavilion and then into the Peace Pavilion. But what you'll see tonight is really special, and that is, of course, these are cars from Hollywood. And people sometimes wonder about our exhibits. When we had the Harley-Davidson exhibit, and people sometimes forget that it was Ronald Reagan who put a tariff on Japanese motorcycles to allow Harley-Davidson to retool and become a successful worldwide brand. And sometimes we have exhibits like baseball. People don't realize that President Reagan was his very first job was as a baseball announcer. And now, of course, Hollywood, and Ronald Reagan was a 7-time president of the Screen Actors Guild. And so it's very appropriate that we have cars from Hollywood here to launch this beautiful exhibit. I'm going to introduce now our keynote speaker, and before I do so, I'm just going to give you a little bit about his background. But first, it's Mr. Leslie Kendall, and he's the chief curator at the Petersen Automotive Museum. Leslie's had a lifelong passion for automobiles and automotive history. He earned an MBA from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which he used for 7 years as a mortgage banker. But after that period of time, he saw the light and decided there was something more for his life to be done. And he left that and volunteered on a full-time basis to work at the San Diego Automotive Museum, which I think is a fantastic thing for him to do. Because he's such a talented man, though, there shortly after, a short 8 months after he began to volunteer, he was then hired as a curator of the San Diego Automotive Museum. Then, in 1993, he was invited to join the team to create the Petersen Automotive Museum, and in 1995 was named as curator. He's a regular contributor to automotive media outlets. He's a Concours d'Elegance judge, which I am so jealous of. He judges events all around the country, and he's a frequent consultant on automotive industry-related projects. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Leslie Kendall with the Petersen Automotive Museum.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I'm cooler than I thought I was. That's really great. First of all, I'm delighted you're all here, and I know why we're all here, because we have the same passion. We have the same passion for automobiles. One thing that everybody has in common, whether we think we do or not, no matter where we live in the world, is cars. If I were to ask everybody what their favorite car is, what car would you put in your garage if you could, I bet you would have an answer at the tip of your tongue. I think everybody does that. And one of the things that enables us to do is to reach out to all different kinds of people. And it was Mr. Petersen's genius that said, you know, I have buckets of money. I made it as a publisher of mostly automobile-related magazines. I want to give back to the community. I want to give the community something that they can be proud of, something that helped explain how Los Angeles came to look the way it does, why it grew out instead of up, and all the other interesting things that go along with an automotive culture. One of the things that the Petersen Museum has always done is explore and present, this is our mission, to explore and present the history of the automobile and its impact on American life and culture, using Los Angeles as a prime example. And there could be no better city for that. And there could be no better collaborator than the Reagan Library for fielding an exhibition of cars, because as you've already heard, Ronald Reagan was the president of SAG multiple times. He was also, and we celebrate Hollywood inside, and you're going to see all these interesting things in very short order. But he was also the governor of the state that had more to do with international automotive culture than any other place on earth. Again, Southern California, you guys should smack yourselves on the back and applaud yourselves, because you are what everybody looks at when they think of car culture. It's Los Angeles. They don't look to, states in the Midwest normally. They don't look to, Hawaii for car culture. They don't look to Australia normally. They look to Southern California. They look at what we're doing. They see us having all the fun. And we thought we'd share some of that fun with you folks, with the members of the Reagan Library, with anybody that wants to come and have a look. As we mentioned, it's going to unfold in three major sections. Right now we have Hollywood cars, and you can see some interesting things. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I have a hunch you'll be able to read when you get in. But they range from a car that Tom Selleck drove in Magnum PI, the very famous Ferrari, all the way up to, or I should say down to the 1927, in terms of model year, Fred Astaire Rolls-Royce, a town car, open in the front, closed in the back, kind of the upstairs, downstairs of motoring for Fred Astaire. Anyway, I also wanted to mention that the reason that we've been fortunate enough to collaborate on this level is because we went dark about 2 Sundays ago. And we're going to stay dark until December 1st of 2015. And that is so we can completely rehab the museum. We want to make it really a 21st century museum. We've been open for 20 years now, and 20-year-old technology 20 years ago was cool. 20-year-old technology 20 years later is not so cool. We think we can do better. We know we can do better. We know we can tell the story in a much better, more engaging way, and we're going to do that. We're going to have much more immersive exhibits, much more immersive experiences. We're going to have people, give people the opportunity to interface in a way that they just haven't been able to right now. And because we're dark, we have automobiles. We have over 300 cars in our collection, and every one of those cars speaks to our mission. And by extension, every one of those cars is perfect for the Ronald Reagan Library. I could not be more thrilled. I want to thank Andrew and John and everybody else that had anything to do with this. We've collaborated before, we'll collaborate again, and I invite you to keep track of what we're doing here. We have another exhibit coming up. We've got presidential vehicles, actually cars of heads of state, including a Pope mobile, including the Eisenhower presidential parade Phaeton that was built by Chrysler in the early 50s. So if you've ever seen a possibly long car with fins, you're going to have that opportunity. And the third exhibition is Wow Cars. We're going to have crazy things like a 1929 Ruxton, painted in probably the most interesting shade of pink you're ever going to see. One of America's first front-wheel drive cars. We're also going to have a Ferrari that was acquired by the Ford Motor Company in 1952 when they were first studying how to build a Thunderbird. So you can be able to see how Ford might have been inspired in certain directions. Anyway, it's a thrill to welcome you all to this exhibition. Thank you so much for having us. I couldn't be more delighted. The cars are in very good company, and enjoy yourself. Come up and ask me any question you'd like later. Thank you.
And Leslie, don't run off yet. In Reagan tradition, we have a little gift for you, so thank you very much. Thank you, sir. So thank you very much. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the Amazing Automobiles, the Ultimate Car exhibit is now open for your pleasure. Go through these doors and enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful evening.